Meta Intro does not give financial advice. Information provided by Meta Intro is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. Always do your own research on the companies that you apply to and the opportunities that you invest in.
Aaron, welcome to the Recruiting-ish podcast. Happy to have you here. For context for the listeners, Aaron and I connected while we were both at Coinbase. He was working on a different team than I was. Obviously, I was in recruiting. He was on the support side, but I think we crossed paths at Permissionless. If I remember correctly, we were both there chatting, had a chance to network, and then unfortunately, both of us were in the layoff, but stayed connected, trying to network, trying to make sure the community stays together. So excited to have you on the podcast to learn about, how you made it into crypto, what you're up to now, tips and tricks, and all that good stuff.
Hey, thanks for having me on the podcast, Alex. I appreciate it. I'm definitely trying to go back to Permissionless this year. They're having another one, I think in Austin, Texas. Maybe get some more, quality networking, make some more friends in the industry. But yeah, I guess how I got here definitely wasn't the plan getting into crypto at any point in time. It was just kind of what happened, it's just kind of what, where the cards fell.
So in terms of your background, I mean, I was looking at it, you've really done it all. I mean, we were even talking before this podcast too. You've done a podcast, you've done some promoting, some DJing, you were in the military, it looks like, for a little bit, worked in banking. How did you get from kind of place to place? Like, as you were navigating your job search, what were some of the things that kind of drove you to these new, opportunities? And what was that like? I mean, not a lot of people get to do different things. Some people just stick with one.
Well, I guess I knew I wanted to go into the military after high school just because I wanted to travel. I wanted to shoot guns, blow things up, and the military, I went in with a best friend in a buddy program, and it was a good time. I wouldn't give it back for anything. Spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, 2 years in Okinawa, Japan, went to Malaysia, South Korea, Thailand, and Brunei, and maybe a few other places I can't remember. But good times. And when I got out, definitely didn't have a ton of direction, and that, I think I can only speak for myself, a lot of military people sometimes have that, because what you're doing in the military is usually so different than what's going on in the civilian world, and you're just more responsible for stuff. So I've done like sales, a lot of customer service. Customer service was kind of like I feel like a comfort zone. It didn't pay a lot, but it was kind of, easy to get into. And, the job was pretty similar from one role to the other. And yeah, I did do some of the DJing and event stuff. The DJing, I feel like, was the most, at least from before I got where I am now, was probably the most fun and like profitable, because everyone's happy to see you show up and you just play music and people hand you cash or your check and, whatever they pay you before, because like deposit. But yeah, I just crypto was never the plan. I did some schooling. I did undergrad for audio engineering. I did graduate school for music industry administration, kind of the legal business side of music. And I was expecting to jump into the music industry at some point. And keep in mind, halfway through my graduate program, COVID hit, in like March, February-ish 2020. So I thought I was going to do all this networking in the music industry. I'm in LA, I'm getting this graduate degree in music. I did the audio engineering. I was like, oh man, I'm going to be in Hollywood. I'm going to be rubbing shoulders. Half the program I'm in a Zoom. I was just like, what are you talking about? I was just like, are you kidding me? I still can't believe it, because yeah, I just had all these assumptions and these big dreams about that. So I did my program. I started applying to all these places, trying to get in here and there, lots of networking, and it didn't pan out, and in a lot of positions, I mean, they didn't pay that great either. And so like, I didn't get into music, but I did have a friend that I met in community college who was a software engineer, and he asked me, hey, I got 2 job offers. Like, I got one from Noom, which is like a food diet startup, and then I got one from Coinbase. And I was like, well, go to Coinbase. Crypto's the future. You'll be able to pick any of your jobs after Coinbase. So just go to Coinbase. And so he did. And then a month later, he said, hey, they have this role. It was for a support analyst. And you should apply. So I applied, and I did the interview, and they offered the role to me at the end of the interview. So that was like a kind of like a customer. It was kind of like customer service, but more technical, just because it's like I can send you like a email template, like do ABC, or I can literally walk you through the process of like recovering your funds or changing networks, or you're gonna have to put your seed phrase in. Do you know what a seed phrase is, or or this is safe, this isn't safe? What's a DEX? I don't know if you want to go there, but yeah, your funds are safe on the exchange. If you go to a DEX, it's a little more tricky. You've left the bank with your wallet and you're talking to strangers. So that role was cool. And let me know if I'm talking too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got a couple questions on the Coinbase thing, because I know, and I'm sure you get this all the time, I get questions when they see Coinbase. A lot of the listeners, I think that's a place they're targeting, or again, most people's first product that they use in crypto. Like
Yeah.
when you were interviewing, was Coinbase something that you utilized, or was it, again, kind of a new company, crypto new to you at that time when you were kind of getting into that role?
I kind of like during the COVID thing, I feel like everybody started to get into either crypto or stocks. It was just like, what are you going to do inside? They were, sending out, stimulus, this and that. And so people started getting into, the speculation. The degens were degenning. And so I started using Cash App. I started using Coinbase. I started using just exploring what's out there, And so I was using Coinbase. I think I had an account for a while. I got one back in 2017, whenever the bull run before the bull run happened. And I was like, I should pay attention to this and just have an account in case I want to buy Bitcoin. And so I did. I had like 2 cents in there, and it went to like $20 or something. I should have put a little more money in,
Should have bought more.
I should have bought
the thing everybody always says.
Yeah, I had like $2 or 2 cents or something, and it went to like $20. It went to like double digits or something. So I had an account. I'd used a lot of their software. I even wrote that in my cover letter for the job. And like, I really liked at the time what the CEO, why can't I remember his name right now? His name is like everywhere.
Brian Armstrong?
Brian Armstrong. I like what he said about the SEC and just kind of saying like, we're looking for regulation and clarity, and they're not giving it to them. And just, I like the kind of stance he took, even within the workplace, focusing on, the priorities of the business rather than, politics and what's going on with, culture. So, yeah, I had used their products before I'd been there. I was familiar with them. It was like the job I was applying for, it's like I was already doing all this stuff anyway. So I didn't even feel like it was work. I was just helping other people figure out things I'd already figured out. And they didn't have, this was their big push to get customer support. Because before, if you went on Reddit, people they were really upset at Coinbase. They didn't have good customer support, or it didn't exist. And this was their push to try and, add phones and, email and chat and all this stuff. And that's essentially what we were doing. We were kind of, filling that gap. So we had a rush of, newbies coming in, trying to figure things out.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it when I was originally hired. I think we got hired in the same month of October, maybe the same onboarding class. And it was massive, right? Like
October.
That first onboarding class, it was huge. It was like 200-300 people in this meeting. I think at that point, Coinbase was around like 3,000 or so people. And then by the time June came and the layoff happened, it basically doubled in size, which was nuts.
Yeah.
Curious what your thoughts were around like the remote first culture, the no politics, kind of the culture of Coinbase. I don't remember the exact terminology, but it was like not a family, we're a team, right? So we operate very efficiently. There's a lot of cultural tenets, working remotely and coming from different industries. Like, how was that for you? Did you, like, I know myself, I was a little bit of like kind of new thing for me, like working in tech, working in a startup, things move fast, but it was also very confusing at times. Like, how did you kind of integrate yourself within maybe the team, or kind of, again, Coinbase, which turned out to be, a pretty large company by the end of it?
It was new, and it was like it was kind of weird. It was, all remote. We're all going to be on the computer. So you kind of got to, especially for some of the technical issues, you kind of just had to follow the directions or reach out to IT. Like, you couldn't just turn your shoulder to the right and be like, hey, buddy, who figured it out? Can you figure it out? But they did a really, really good job of making everybody feel comfortable, creating space for people to, communicate with one another that could connect on something. The Slack, I used to love the Slack. The Slack was popping. It was just like so many different channels. It's like a crypto company, but then you've got like the DGen channel, like all the crypto DGen people in crypto working at the crypto company doing crypto the most, whatever, stuff. So I think the culture was pretty awesome at the time that I was there for remote first company. I just couldn't, they treated us really well. Always random gifts and things, or like, oh, if you're working a little later or more hours, you get some lunch, on us. So they spoiled the hell out of us. I'll just say they really did everything, the pay, the perks. Yeah, it was great.
I agree. I mean, that was, I think, the toughest part after leaving Coinbase was like you added back up all of those small things. Like you mentioned, we would get packages in the mail that was like swag, or, they sent like Coinbase candles or like gift, snacks and all this stuff. And then the Slack stuff, man, I miss that too. I have not seen an environment where obviously you can do your work and you communicate through Slack, but you just learn so much because the top engineers, the top people in crypto were there, like communicating in those channels. And as well, I learned more and got exposed to more through the different channels in Slack, the beta tests we could do. I don't know if they still do this, but they used to reimburse you for ETH if you were doing, various activities on chain. I just felt like I learned a ton. I mean, were you kind of in a similar place where when you walked out, you felt like more of that degen than you were when you walked in?
Yeah, they took our opinion seriously, because that program you're talking about, reimbursed for ETH, I forget if we filled out something or I talked to whoever's in charge of something, but I made the suggestion, look, if we're going to be like crypto first, we need to be like incentivizing people here to learn the system. So you should like reimburse people for doing certain things. And they implemented that, because I think I was in a meeting talking with one of the software engineers, and he's like, oh, I'll pass it up or something. And they did that. They did it like a couple weeks later. So they listened and they implemented stuff. And I mean, like I said, the culture was great. And obviously they got a little bigger than maybe they needed to. And, we're not there anymore. But I don't have anything negative to say about Coinbase, to be completely honest. So I really dug it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I mean, in preparing you for, like, obviously when the layoff happened, were you thinking of going back into web or staying in Web3? Were you maybe contemplating going to something else? Like, what was that kind of search like in between, as the market was a little challenging?
I don't even know if I had even started searching. What happened was when I was there, I'd been going to a lot of meetups. We had some meetups in LA, Coinbase meetups. And well, before that, there was this thing called DGen Thursdays or DGen something. And it was, or DeFi lunch. It was like DeFi lunch sessions. And it was just like all the people that are extra crypto were like in these. We had guest speakers. People were showing their like strategies and, their little spreadsheets and just funny meme presentations. And there's this guy, Dennis, in there, and he was one of the guys he brought so we were going to do a physical meetup. So all the people in LA. And so I started going to those and meeting engineers, people from different departments, people from different like startups, companies, Robinhood, BlackRock, Gauntlet, all kinds of stuff. And I post on LinkedIn, hey, told my story, whatever, and people start messaging me or sharing my thing and commenting. And Dennis, the guy who did the things, he just, I remember I was at a park. I was just smoking a cigarette. I was all stressed. I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I just got laid off. And he just was like, he sent me a message. He's like, hey, email this guy Wags at Yuga Labs your resume. And I was like, huh? I was like, oh, I heard of Yuga Labs. Okay, whatever. And I was on my phone. I was at a park. I just kind of, this is the latest resume, support analyst. This is what I did. One sentence attached to resume. So I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, God, what am I going to do? And they got back to me within like a week. So I didn't go on LinkedIn. I didn't whatever. It was like a friend of a friend, because he was a Coinbase guy. He's not at Coinbase anymore. He's doing his own startup thing. And he just said he thought of me. And that was just from going to meetups and talking and networking. He thought of me first, and he only sent it to me. And I took action. It was opportunity. I applied, and I did an interview with the talent guy, which was Wags. And then I met the COO at the time, which was Soda. I met another ops specialist, and then I met a manager, ops manager, and then back to Soda, and she made an offer. I was like, sounds good to me. And that was that. So I was out of work for like a month. I got extremely lucky because every other job I applied to, maybe I got an interview barely, or just rejection, or just ghosted. So the one job that I didn't apply to, I just got a referral, was the one I got. And that was like, I was laid off in June, I was off July, and then I started August 1st.
It's funny you say that. I had a similar experience where, and where I'm at was a referral from somebody at Coinbase. I didn't know the job existed. I didn't apply. Same thing. You kind of navigated around the process. And I feel like for Web3 especially, that's how you can really stand out, right? If you build that network, you build those relationships, people remember that. And then as they do go to different places, you're able to kind of utilize that versus, I'm sure, like you mentioned, the applications, you just get ghosted. It gets lost in kind of a black hole. I know we've been talking about this, like from the networking side, and maybe you can bring some tips in from the promoting and DJing days, since I'm sure that was a pretty social aspect. Like, what do you recommend? Like, as like, especially maybe what you've used in Yuga, like how do you kind of connect with people in crypto? Like, what are some, good ways or things you've used, at Coinbase or Yuga to kind of connect, or stay connected?
You've got to do like internal and external networking. Like, for instance, yesterday I went, like, I was, I'm working from home, whatever, but we have, we have a warehouse, and so like, our warehouse guy, or guy who handles a lot of our logistics and, all our merch, he just messaged me, hey, I'm going to be at the warehouse today. You want to, if you want to come, if it's too late, whatever. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come. And so I drove up and just went to the warehouse and helped him and looked at, merch and made sure we have this and that. We're ready for this upcoming thing and da-da-da. And that's like network. Like, I didn't have to go, but he's like, this guy is like a smart guy. He handles a lot of our merch, a lot of our shipping, our logistics, communicating with people. And like, as operations specialist, I need to kind of know that stuff, and I want to know that stuff, but then also I'm building that relationship. And he actually moved from like the IE, like further out to closer to where I'm at in Orange County. So I'll probably be hanging out with him more often. So that's like internally. And that's just like one person. If there's local things to meet people that work at your business in the area, you should go to them. And then like the external would be like, I go to the crypto meetup that I went to that got me this job. It's almost a year I've been going to that thing, and I'm going to keep going to it. And the guy who got me the job, I met him in LA the other week just to kind of catch up and see if there's anything I could help him with. Like, even I met somebody at one of these things, because I meet people with startups, legit startups, are getting like, seed money rounds, and they're still, they're looking to make connections and stuff. So like, I'm working at Yuga Labs. So if there's anything, if I feel like they can contribute value, or if they're even looking, if they need to talk to somebody and, it's legit and they can bring some type of value, I'll see if I can get you a conversation with that person, or I'll see if, if you're, if you want to work here, maybe I can, make sure you, tailor your resume to the position, and, I can refer you, and then, hey, it's a talent team wants to take the next steps. Great. If they don't, at least you tried, and I made the attempt to help. So, just like, if you can find your local crypto meetup, which there's a few, out here in LA, we have one, and I don't know, if you want to go, just reach out to me, or maybe drop a link or something. Anybody who's listening that is in LA and want to go to that, it's completely open. We just like one Thursday every month, and tons of people show up, lots of like high quality. I met people from the Uniswap team at the last one, and just, I meet people from all teams in like Web3 and crypto all the time. So yeah, just you kind of need to get out there.
Yeah, no, I like that point, and we talked, a couple of days ago about that too, right? Like the internal networking side, I feel like most people don't think about, right? Like some people think, oh, they're just coworkers. Again, there's always lines I think you got to draw. You can have friends, you can have coworkers, you can blend the two, but it's good to, like you say, extend that outside of who you work with directly to other people. And we'll definitely drop links for both your LinkedIn. I'm sure you have some, people that might want to connect, a few different reasons, and as well the meetup. That's amazing. I think that, again, that's the cool part about digital assets crypto is everybody's accessible, right? Like at some point, Vitalik could be in one of those. Like it's not unheard of for like these really, well-known or well-connected people to just show up, to some of these events. I guess the flip side of that, because I know we also talked about this and connected on it, because I get some as well, having the Yuga name, and obviously people that, know you work at Yuga, a lot of people reaching out, right? Like you're constantly getting hit up, people want to work here, people want to network. How do you stand out against that? Like when you see a message, what pops out where you'll respond to that maybe versus, most of the other ones?
So the way I look at that is like, because you can't really, a lot of people, all of a sudden, it's like people have all this Web3 stuff in their immediate profile, and they're all like friend requesting me. And I'm like, who are these people? What's all this Web3? They're just like, I don't know if there's anything legitimate. And like sometimes they don't add a note saying anything. So like, I think the best thing is just like add a note, like send a genuine message and like show genuine like curiosity about what's going on. And that's how I decide. Like I met with 2 people in this past week that were looking to potentially work at Yuga. I referred them and, they didn't get the positions, but I, at least they put themselves out there, and I did refer them, and those are the only, those are like 2 of the only people I've ever decided to, kind of talk to and communicate further. Like I did like little Zooms with them and stuff, and just to make sure they're a real human being. But they were to just show genuine curiosity and passion for Web3, the company, and just seemed to be like really nice people. So you don't have to write a whole paragraph, but just one of them, like they went to the same school, one of the schools I went to, I think they lived in Orange County. And, the other one, they just were like, had a lot of questions about the culture at the company and stuff. And these are questions I would kind of ask, like you kind of need to, and I know it's not common for everybody, you should reach out to people that work at the companies you want to work at and just ask them just questions. What's it like there? What's the culture like? Do you like it? What are the expectations? Anything that you're curious about that would make you want to work somewhere, ask if they have those, does the company have those kind of traits, and go to people that work there. And some people will answer, some people won't, but I'm the type of person to look at it and see if, is this a real human being, or is this like a Russian bot, or, is this like a phishing attempt?
Yep. Now you got to be careful of those.
Yeah, if I've assessed that you are not a Russian bot or a phishing attempt, I will, probably respond and say, hi, how are you doing? I'm not, I don't work on the talent team or, hiring, but I can refer you. And if they like you, then, good to go. But yeah, I'll, if you sound like a genuine person, I'll definitely respond, try to help you out.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Like I think people forget, and again, the job search is tough, right? You might narrow the focus just on talent, or maybe just on the C-suite. I mean, the startups, obviously, founding team, whatever it is, but like extend that reach, like reach out to other people in other teams where, just like you mentioned, they're reading their messages too. They can refer you, they can network with you. Like there's, I think, a few different routes on that networking side. And then I guess finally, because I know everybody that sees that you're at Yuga probably has the question. I asked the question.
Oh yeah.
What's it like to work at arguably the best blue chip NFT, now entertainment kind of gaming company in the space? Like tell us a little bit about what you can share about kind of the inside scoop and the culture of Yuga, and kind of what it's like to work there.
It's like, it's probably the best company I've ever worked for. It's just like, there's a lot of, they're inclusive, I don't feel like, I don't feel not included. I feel like it's diverse. A lot of the people who work here, I feel like everyone's smart, competent. I feel like, smaller companies, everyone has to be like, have a certain level of competency to get their, their jobs done and even communicate with others. Everyone's passionate, hungry. They want to do a good job. They want to kind of contribute value. They do set up like cool activities for us to do. We have like stuff coming up, and like even, management or, higher ups. And, we just got a new CEO, Daniel, and I can't pronounce his last name. I think it's Alighieri or something. And he's super cool. I mean, I got one-on-one with, the CEO and our senior, vice president, our new senior vice president, and just like one-on-ones, like I'm an employee here. I'm like number 60, I think. So like I've never been at a company so small and got to speak to, the people higher up. They listen, just have those intimate conversations, and just, be able to point out areas that like have questions I want answered, and then like point out areas I think we can work on. It's just a really open, inclusive environment, and just a lot of people that want to work hard to kind of contribute to the space and, create the best experience for the community, because it's the community that's what makes Yuga Labs. Like the founders created a story and they produced, value through these digital assets. Like the story and like all the community kind of, they kind of got around that, and they believe in the story. They love it. It's funny. It creates this wacky community. And we're just trying to, follow through on that promise to kind of, the roadmap to try to provide these other things, these other, areas of value. And it's just, I mean, anyone can create an NFT, but not anyone can kind of create that community around it. And that's what they did. They told this story and they created a community, and we're just trying to serve that community. And everyone here is here to serve the community. So I think as long as we're here to do that, I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's been cool to watch the evolution of what Yuga is, right? Like obviously they started as an NFT project that grew quickly, the community. Now there's been acquisitions, there's been content. Obviously they've put out more on the gaming side, entertainment. How would you describe Yuga as like a company? Or are they one thing? Are they multiple things? Like when you guys talk about that, is there like, kind of the goal of being like a Disney, or like, what does that look like when you guys are having some of those conversations around like, what is Yuga in comparison?
I think Yuga has a lot of promise, kind of like, I mean, a lot of companies, like for instance, I could just think of Amazon. Amazon started out as like a bookstore, and now it's like this global delivery system, like everything, e-commerce, whatever. And I don't even know what Google started out as, but I think it started out as search. It might have been something before that, and YouTube was something else. Like some of these companies start out as something and then ended up being something way bigger. And I think that's what Yuga Labs is going to do. I mean, start out as like an NFT. I don't think it was on the roadmap that they're moving into gaming, but I could be wrong. I'm not like an expert in all our, our lore and the roadmap and everything, but I think we produce NFTs, we tell stories. We're definitely storytellers and creatives, and, have all this lore. And then also we're kind of involved in gaming, because I think a lot of the community that participates it's kind of like and communicates on Discord. It's kind of like gamer type community. Like a lot of online communities especially gamers, they just communicate a lot online in the game or outside the game. But I wouldn't even though we're moving towards that gaming area, I wouldn't even pigeonhole us there. Like I think it's a really ambitious company and just vision that the founders set out. And with the new CEO we have, it's just like, I think we're really going to execute and capitalize on the future the best we can. We're small, but we're scrappy, and, no one's got the number one brand like we do. So I think we're going to make the most of that and just leverage it to accomplish all our goals.
I love it, man. I'm definitely a fan. I'm a follower of the story. I have not gotten an ape yet, but definitely want one, and we'll be on the lookout for some options. I guess to that question, if you had to choose, would you be an ape or a punk? I know that's kind of like a rivalry, even though it's under the same, brand of Yuga. I know there's two worlds. Which one are you choosing?
Oh man, I feel like I would probably fall, and I don't have to take a lot of time to think about this. I like the mutant apes kind of, just because they're like, the apes is already a wacky community, but I like the mutant apes just because they're just extra wacky, and I like that they took the serum and then they just got like, blah, I like the crypto punks though, because they're just like, it's older, it's more vintage, almost refined, they're quiet. They come from the old, and they're not trying to really modify anything. And I mean, we're already like trying to get like, I guess like some of the stuff they're like just trying to make it like it's a new next level of art. So they're trying to put in like galleries or I think Sotheby's or whatever. I think that's really cool. Just so much cool stuff they're doing: video games, art, media, and entertainment. That's just really interesting. But I think like the mutants. I like the mutants the best, probably.
I think I'd have to choose mutants as well. I think, like you mentioned, it's a class of its own and got some cool. The artwork is crazy, like you mentioned. The story is crazy. So maybe we'll have to get one at some point, or maybe who knows? They might give you like a Christmas, present of one of these things at some point. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I mean, as we wrap the episode, we normally, the guest kind of has the last word in terms of like anything you want to share, about, either your background, Yuga, exciting stuff, tips or tricks just to leave the listeners with. We always let the guests have the last word.
I would just like, I wouldn't even be specific to Web3 or crypto or Yuga, but just like keep your head up and keep moving forward. And if possible, and always take care of yourself, your mental, your physical health, and just, keep a strong circle around you if possible, people that build you up and believe in you, and network the best you can. Just wherever you go, try to bring some type of value, and just make others feel good when you're around. Like, for instance, when I met with our merch guy the other day at the warehouse, I brought him a jersey, a Gasol jersey, a Lakers Gasol jersey from a Lakers game I went to, because we got free tickets because the crypto meetup group I was in got us tickets, and I went to that, and it was when they were hanging his jersey in the rafters, and I got 2 of those. So I gave one to the warehouse merch guy because he likes them. I don't even care about basketball, but to him, that's super cool, and to me, it's just like an easy kind of gift and like bring some value and just like, hey man, appreciate you. And so that all, kind of came from crypto, and I'm still doing the networking and stuff. So I don't know, be nice to people.
I like it. Well, we'll include your links to your LinkedIn. We'll obviously include Yuga's information. So if you don't know about them, I don't know, where have you been? Probably under a rock, but we're going to include that there so you can check out Yuga, all the exciting stuff they're up to. For this episode of Recruiting-ish, thank you again for chiming in and giving us some insight, telling us about your story. I'm excited to stay connected with you. To anybody listening, make sure you subscribed on all major podcast channels, as well as engage with us on Discord, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We'll catch you next week.